I didn't put one up for today, but I'll put some bullets up for today. But what we're gonna do is, you're gonna get a homework assignment every Thursday, and it's due every Tuesday at 11 a.m. when class starts, okay? And there's no lates and no do-overs. If it's not there, it gets a 0. Now, if you look at the grade distribution, you can probably get a 0 on 2 or 3 of the homework assignments and still get an A in the course. But get her done is my point, you know. Don't sit and wait. And let me warn you about something. If you wait until Tuesday morning to start doing this, you will likely fail. When you first start, none of this is easy and none of it's transparent, and it's perfectly okay to ask me or Evan or anyone else for help, but you're not going to have time to do that Tuesday morning. Just trust me on this one detail. So go ahead and try and get started right away, and when you have problems, we'll help you solve them. So what we're going to start talking about today is basically data input, is creating SAS files. We'll talk a little bit about the whole environment. Did you cover the whole display manager story? You did? Good. Then I won't deal with that. We'll just start talking about input. And this is the one thing that is all screwed up right now. And it kind of relates to the fact that all of these damn systems are so different. You know, one of the things that's amazing is, believe it or not, there's actually about 20 versions of Windows out there. It's hard to believe, but it's true. And then you add that to the fact that, and they all come in 2 flavors, either 32-bit or 64-bit. And it turns out trying to make everything work seamlessly with all the various components has been a bit of a challenge, and so this still doesn't work perfectly. So anyway, you can see your homework assignment is going to be basically create a data set. Now, I want to point out this. The way you submit your homework is in one Word file. How many files did I say? One, okay? So you're going to cut and paste things into Word, you're going to save it, and you're going to upload that one file to the homework thing. And yours should have a little thing on the bottom that says submit the homework or something on the student version. I actually have never even seen it myself. What did you learn in probably 2nd or 3rd grade? Every single time you hand in everything, on the top you put your name, the date, and the purpose. So you know your name, you know the date. By purpose, for this particular one, you're going to write down homework 2. If you want to get fancy, you can list the course name, put a dash, and say homework, 1. Okay? So you need to put headers on all your assignments. I will deduct points. I will deduct 5 points if you don't put your headers correctly. So do exactly what you learned to do in elementary school. I'm stunned when graduate students don't do these basic, simple things. List the questions and show your responses. Now, as you write your code, save it, cut and paste it, and put it in an appendix. Now, if you put it in an appendix, that means you also have to refer to it in your answers. So if you go, you can write down like question 2, import the file, and you cut and paste the log. This particular one is not going to have a lot of code. The only code there is the live name statement. But actually, maybe we'll make you do more than that. I might change this. I have a feeling we're going to have to actually have you write real imports. But we'll deal with that later. So, when you first set up SAS, it's going to create a directory. I'm going to show you what it creates and then what I do. I'm not telling you this because I want you to do what I do. I'm telling you this so that you don't get confused and look at some of my stuff and why doesn't it look like yours? The answer is because I'm a power user and I do things a little differently. But for example, what am I doing? Oh, let's go to Documents. So if you go to Documents, SAS will create this folder right there, My SAS Files. And under it, it'll create something called 9.4 folder, and under that, these are all the SAS files that these are files. You see, it says profile. These are all files that contain data about your sessions. And so, if you change the default parameters, it'll be stored here, and it'll always be able to find it. And the good news is that if you ever update your versions or something like that, it'll still find those. You can still find those old files, but they won't be under a table called 9.4. So, for example, on my computer, I've got the older versions, and I've got to copy them over every time I update a version. But that's the advantage. You can just use this folder. What a lot of people would do is go up here and maybe create another new folder called Programs, or you can call it Class, you can call it Thesis. You can create lots of folders here to keep all your programs and stuff, okay? Now, I actually don't do that here. I actually use a completely different image, but here's an example of, so here's the 9.4 that I actually use. And and here's the old ones, 9.2 is there. And I've got something called Programs, and you can see within the Program folder, I've got all these different project files, okay? And I've got tons of programs. All right. Now the other thing I've done is I created a folder I usually just call ED, and I put the year in there, and usually for each class, whatever I do in that class goes in my little folder. So my point is, it's a full Windows kinds of environment. You can create and manage all your files in ways that make sense to you. That's the point. So you should start planning right away to creating permanent files. And obviously before you do that, you've got to go into your windowing environment and create your folders and directories and stuff like that. And it's probably useful to do that before you open SAS. You could always, reduce SAS, open up Explorer, and create them at any time. It'll show up. It's not like it won't show up. So when I open up SAS, and Evan should have told you all this, the first thing you see is these, the first thing you see are these three windows. So this is all called the Display Manager. And you'll notice there's the editor window, that's where you write your programming statements. There's a log window. The log window is where SAS tells you what it did. And the log window is very important. And for the most part, your homework assignments, you can cut and paste these things. So, once you highlight it, you can copy it. You can open up Word. and you can paste it. And so now there's your homework is complete, okay? That's all you got to do to do your homework. So I'm just going to reduce this right now because I don't want to see it. So now when you look at, and like all Windows things, there's like your big, make it a big window button. So you'll notice that at the top, it tells you the version 9.4. It also tells you the, so TS1, M1 are the, it's called the maintenance releases. This is interesting. I just realized why my laptop never works like my desktop. I actually have maintenance release 2 on my desktop, and I've never realized I only had the very first maintenance released 1.1 on my desktop, on my laptop. Because certain things don't work here that will work on my laptop. And I'm going to show you one of them today. In fact, I just got in the disk for maintenance release 3, so if you guys want to upgrade, and you only need to do that if you decide I'm going to invest my life in SAS. If you're not going to invest your life in SAS, it's not worth the 30 minutes to upgrade it. It's really not, because everything in 2 works just fine. Most of these problems with importing and exporting Excel were solved in release 2, which is why it works on my desktop. And it doesn't work here. So I'm going to fix all that. Now notice that it updated these products. I don't know what that's about. And it's got Service Pack 1 in it. That's telling me about my Windows environment. We don't care about any of that. Now, look at this thing. Auto exec processing happened from a course. Let's cut and paste that into Word for a second. The reason I'm cutting and pasting it is that Word wrapped that whole thing. Now I'm going to make it big so you can see. Notice it says auto exec processing beginning. File is C program file, SAS home, SAS foundation, 9.4 auto exec SAS. Now I always use this, you see this little button here? That's show paragraph marks. If I turn it off, maybe yours looks like this. I need to, whenever I'm working with Word, I need to look under the hood. So I always have that on. It shows me where spaces are, where the tabs are, and where paragraphs are. So notice that right in the middle of my damn folder name, SAS broke it in half. So this name is really, it's interesting. Let's make it smaller so it all fits on the line. There you go. So that's the real name of the folder right there. So what I've done is I've created a file with all my folder names. And it reads that file automatically. Now it turns out you don't have to do it this way. There are 3 other ways to do it. You can designate the location of a different file, and I'll show you all those tricks eventually. But let's go look at that file right now. So if I open up an exploring window, so it's in C, Program Files, SAS Home, SAS Foundation. SAS Foundation is where base SAS is, 9.4, which is the version we're in. And if we go to the bottom here, you'll see two things. Oh, look, this is where the actual SAS program is, SAS.exe. And here's that thing called auto-exec SAS. So all of the files that end in .sas are SAS program files, okay? And if I open that with Notepad, you can see that that file has a whole bunch of live name statements in it. And these are all the folders that I want to create where my data exists. Now, the good news is you don't have to do any of this anymore. And the only reason why I have it this way is because this is what I started doing 20 years ago. So this is a legacy thing. You'll also notice that I use this option statement to change the line and page sizes of my outputs. You don't need to do that. That's just something I do for myself. And you'll notice that this is the, excuse me, these are the exact addresses of exactly where all those folders are. And you'll also notice that in the early days, I didn't put anything, well, again, when I started this, we were all using DOS, and you work directly off your root directory, and there were things like My Documents and things like that. And also, back in the day, a file name couldn't be longer than 8 letters. So, the only reason you see all these real simple file names is because 25 years ago you had to remember all those damn things because you couldn't see them. And you had to type them all every single time because you couldn't copy and paste them. And they couldn't be longer than 8 characters anyway. None of that's true anymore. So if you look at this one, this is the way things would look today. Obviously, I put this in. I can tell you exactly when I did that. The TNRCC project was 2004 or 5. So apparently somewhere in the 2004 or 5 range, I said to myself, okay, with this new project called TNRCC, I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in my documents place. So all that data is in a classic Windows thing, documents and setting, the username, the folder My Documents, and then some subfolders that I created. And you can see ultimately it's at MSI Data is the ultimate folder where I'm keeping all of the data for that project. So how does that look in SAS? And you're probably asking, how do I get all that crap? We'll get to that in a minute. So let's say I wanted to create an auto-exec file and put it here. How am I going to do that? Well, it's real simple. You go up here, and look, there's the full name. So all I got to do now is go Control Copy, and it's in my memory buffer. And I can go to SAS. I can go to the editor. And I can say live name. And we'll call this home. Now this is a text string, so we're going to put it in quotes and put a semicolon at the end, then Control V, and there's the name. So you can grab those names real easily in Explorer. Okay, so what I want to show you next is, well, suppose I can't remember SAS Home, SAS Foundation 9.4. Or even worse, suppose when you installed it, it didn't actually put it there and put it somewhere else. That's not a problem. Let's just go to the root. and we'll search over here for SAS.exe, and I guess you hit enter, and you can see it's working. See my little thing spin. So it's looking for where it is. You can see the thing on top is searching everywhere. If I know it's slow. Oh, and there it is. So now all we got to do is, it found it for you. So now all you got to do is go to that library. It doesn't want to do anything. I'm going to stop it. Oh, good. So now we just go to that library. Whoops. How do we go to that library? Oh. What am I doing wrong, Evan?
Right click it.
What?
Right click on it.
Right click on it.
No, you had it before.
I had it before? What did I do?
Click it and then right click.
Ah.
And then open file location or?
No, we don't want to open it.
On the very bottom.
Oh, open file location. There we go. So now we're in that, oops, that's not the right place. Look at that, 1988. I have an old DOS version of SAS on my computer. I had no idea I even had that. Anyway, that's how you find, you won't have that problem on your computer. That's how you find it if you want to do it. So here's the punchline. By default, if you have a file named autoexec.sas, when SAS opens, it'll run that file for you. And anything you want to do to basically customize your application, you can put in that autoexec file. Now, do you have to create that file? No. So let me close this all up. Let's say don't save. Let's go back to SAS. Whoops, I don't want to open up a new one. I want to open up the one that's open. Okay, so now I'm going to close, just get rid of all of this. Just to finish the conversation now, I'm going to reduce this window so you can see all three. So you've got the log, the editor, and then you have a SAS Explorer window. And if we look in libraries, there are all the folders that are created by my autoexec.sas file. And because my life is complicated, you see I've got, I don't even know how many folders I have with SAS data. There's probably about 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I don't even know. There's probably 30 of them. Actually, there's a lot more than 30 of them. There's a hell of a lot more than 30 of them. Now, when you open up your version, you probably only see, help, user, and work, right? You might also see these other ones. I didn't create those, I didn't create maps, but if you added those things, you probably see those. Now, the only one of those you're actually ever going to use. So SAS user, help is where all the help files are. You don't care about that. User is where your profile settings are. You're never going to use that. The only thing you're going to use on that whole list is work. So work is a special folder where everything you do gets created as a temporary file and put in the work directory. Okay? So that's where everything is going. The problem is when you turn SAS off, everything in the work folder disappears. So that's why you have to have permanent folders. So work is temporary, only for your session. And so that's why you got to create permanent folders to keep everything. And so if you look at any one of these folders, in fact, I'll bet I have one called Ed. I do. So if you look at Ed, these are all of the files we're going to work with today. And you'll also see I already have something called NAS1. And you double click it and there's the data set. Okay? So let's make believe. Let's close that. And of course, if I show you, we go back to Explorer and we hit the up button. We go back to where all the folders are. And if we look at work, there should be nothing. Right, see it's empty over here? Because I haven't done anything yet. So let's go back. So the first thing we want to do is show you how to import an Excel file.
Well, we did that. We did that.
You did that?
Yeah, but
And did you talk about how to save it with a live name and all that?
yeah,
Okay.
but
And how many of you it didn't work? I know a couple of you it didn't work. Whose didn't work? I think mine doesn't work. Let me just try it real quick.
Because of the PC files
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Let me try it real quick because I think it doesn't even work on my computer. Whoops, I'm in the wrong place. So when you want to import a file, you go to File, Import. We're going to use an Excel file, Browse. And now you're just playing window games, right? There's nothing unusual here. Let me go to where I keep these things, which is an experimental design examples. And I think I have a spreadsheet called NAS1. And if I do that, the data is in, I think it's in this one called macrophonic. Now, here's the important part. By default, where is it sticking it? What library or folder? Work. So this will be temporary. If I wanted to keep it, I would pick we'll go to Ed, I would pick a permanent folder, but you have to have your permanent folder made already. And then, in fact, if I do this, it'll show me a list of all the names in that permanent folder. Okay? So let's go ahead and back up, put it in work, and I'm going to call this NAS1. We'll go next. Now this is very important. The import wizard can create a file calling proc import that can be used to import this data again. So all of the wizards in SAS are actually writing programs, and you can save those programs. So let's save this as import NAS. And I'm going to go ahead and stick this. Now I've got to remember how to do this. Well, I'm going to have to make myself a shortcut. I haven't done that yet. So I'm going to stick it in. I'm going to stick it in my Dropbox. For some reason, SAS doesn't see Dropbox, so I've got to do it the hard way the first time. And there's Dropbox. And here's your class, Ed 2016, right? So we're going to save it as import NAS. It worked. I didn't think it was going to work. Okay, so now let's go and look in work. So here's that NAS file, and you can see we've imported that whole data set. Just that simply. Now, suppose I want to look at that program. Well, I got to go to Dropbox again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shortcut to Dropbox right here. We go copy. There's my shortcut. Oh, I didn't want it. That's not what I want. I'm going to delete that. Let's go back there. Let's go to Dropbox. I want to go to that one folder. Let's create a shortcut. So now that shortcut, I'm going to cut it. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. I'll cut the shortcut. And I want to put it in my SAS folder. Okay, so now, when I want to open up, when I want to work with Dropbox, let's go date modified. There's my, and there it is right there. Now, you don't have to do what I'm doing. I don't recommend you do. I told you I want to save everything I do in my sessions in the Dropbox so that if you miss something and you want to see it, you can pull it up anytime you want. That's why I'm going through these gyrations. You would do something simpler and you wouldn't need this problem. I don't know why SAS can't see the Dropbox folder. I really don't know why.
Because it's not like it's not a physical part of me, that's why.
Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah, because it does the same thing for like Box and it has to have a C.
But it can see all your other physical folders. So you're not going to have to go through all these gyrations. Just use Explorer in the normal way and just decide where you want to put stuff. But I would recommend that you create at least 2 folders, one for the class and one for your own real work. You might want to create one for the project. Don't put everything in one place. Go ahead and use the folder structure. In the long run, it'll be easier. So let's go ahead and open this. So here's the program that SAS created. Now notice it did the same damn thing. It broke the line. You see how it broke the line? So believe it or not, it'll still run with a broken line. It won't add a bunch of spaces here and not work. But let's talk a little bit about the window now. Notice something else. All of the words are in different colors. What do these colors mean? Well, the first, notice there's sort of like a dark purple for the word proc import and the word run. Okay, those are module words. Module words are always in dark purple. So all SAS procedures start with the word proc and they end with the word run. And it knows that everything in between run and proc is to be executed with the import procedure. We're also going to talk about data steps. Data is our programming environment. So everything within the word data and run is programming. Now, out, it's sending it to the, notice that the file name is NAS1, but it put the word work dot. So work is the name of the folder. So if you think about this, there's this really neat feature. You can have folders that are really deep in a hierarchy, but you can represent it with one word. That is called a virtual name. So the word work is a virtual name for the physical location of that folder on your hard drive. And even though it's buried in a bunch of directories, we just need to use the word work. And that's what the live name statement does. The live name statement creates a virtual name, and then you can use that virtual name forever. So SAS automatically created this virtual name called work. As I showed you with my auto exec program, I create about 40 virtual names that I use. And if you don't create it, SAS won't know about it. Now notice, the next thing is, this is database, Excel. If you have that, here's how you modify this program to work. If you have the program where you can't import an Excel file, all you got to do is change that word XL to, I wrote this down. Oh crap, I didn't write it down here. It might be it might be this. Damn. You might actually just change the word XL to that, and there's another option called CXL. I'll go look all these things up. I thought I had them written on my, oh, I know where I have it. I do have it written down, and it'll be here. Oh, I hate, so now here's an important thing. Once you change your folder the first time, notice when I hit open program, open file, it goes directly to ed16. So now I'm going to get out of ed16. Yeah, here it is right there. You just add CS to the back, not to the front. I don't know why that works. So, if you cannot, so you could use this, so if you cannot open Excel with the wizard, all you got to do is grab this program and change this word, just add CS to the back, and it'll work. It's a different engine. And the reason why you're having a hard time is because of this 32-bit, 64-bit incompatibility, a slight version incompatibility between your specific flavor of Windows and whatever they've created. So they haven't figured out how to create one engine that works with every flavor of Windows. So you've got to do it yourself, unfortunately. I'm sure that'll get fixed someday. But anyway, that's the way you fix this program. Now notice here it says range. The word sheet also works. You might be better off with the word sheet. In fact, I'll go ahead and put this on Dropbox right now so you don't have to remember it. Also notice that we're definitely using get names here. Now look at this one, that's green. Why is that word green? Well, notice there's an asterisk in front of it. An asterisk means this is a comment, don't execute this line. And I guess in that particular one, I must have those files with no headers. So in the NAS Excel sheet, the first row is the name of the variable, and that's what get names does. So if I don't have a get name, so I can have a get names no if it's just the data. But I don't know why I've blanked that out. Oh, I know why. You have to have get names if there's range. When you use the word sheet, you don't need get names. It knows that if it's a sheet, the first row is the variable names. That's what it is. It's the difference between using range and sheet, I forgot. So these other things are just a bunch of options that really don't matter right now. The important thing is what SAS does is it reads the whole column and it automatically figures out the format. And that's partly what those other things are for. And so notice also the important thing is you've got to get the file name correct. Now how do I get the file name if it's buried in a long, complicated place? Well, let's go back. So I'll save this just for fun, just so you have something to use as an example. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of things you don't need. And you don't need, oh, this is a really good example. You know why? Oh, I'm going to make this your homework assignment. I'm going to get rid of these things that you don't need, so because I don't want you to be confused. And then I'm going to get rid of all of this junk too. So I'm going to go File, Save As. Now I've got to go back to Dropbox. And hopefully, where did I put that? Oh, there it is. And I'm going to save it here. And this is going to be, I'll change the name so it makes more sense. It's going to be Import Excel, I'm going to call it Sheets. Now, look what I'm doing here. Every one of these imports is going to the same damn file. And out is the name of the file, right? And it's all going to work. But notice I'm reading from a different sheet. So I'm going to change our homework assignment. And instead of using the import wizard, I want you to take this program and I want you to make a permanent SAS file of every sheet. Don't do metadata. But remember, NAS has got several sheets.
Where is this NAS file located?
What's that?
Where is the NAS file at? Like for me to look at and use?
It's where, take a wild guess where it's going to be.
On Blackboard.
It's going to be on Blackboard, and oops, it's not there. Okay. I'm going to put it in Blackboard, but right at this instant, I'm going to go ahead and stick it, right at this instant, let's, what am I doing? Let me go to examples. Let me go stick it, I'll stick it in Dropbox right now, so, oops, that's the wrong place. I'll stick it in Dropbox right now, so that you have it. Copy, paste. Okay, so you have all this right now. So notice there are one sheet called macrofauna, one sheet called station codes, and one sheet called SP codes. Now, I'm not sure I trust SAS, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the space out. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, so I'm telling you, make permanent files out of this, this, and this. And then we're going to save it. And if you're able to do it using the wizard, that's fine. I don't care. All you got to do is use the wizard and cut and paste the log. If for some reason you've got that incompatibility, I know at least 2 of you have it because I've seen it already, and you can't use the wizard to import Excel, then use the approach in the import Excel sheets. And all you got to do is change. You might want to copy it from the Dropbox into permanent folders. Don't do what I'm doing and work off Dropbox. It's too complicated. And you don't want to do that because I will delete Dropbox the day after class is over. It's going to go away. So go ahead and copy things to permanent locations if you want to keep them. All right, so let's finish up a few quick things, but it should be clear to you, using this approach, all you got to do is get this name. Now, how are you going to get the name? Well, as I showed you earlier, I can get that like this, control copy, right? And I can put it here, and there it is. I just have to do backslash and type your file name in. If you have problems, it's because the file name is a mess. Now notice, this is black. So when the program, when the display manager sees text that it doesn't recognize at all, it assumes it's an expression or a value, and it comes up as black. So these are values that go into the keyword. When it sees blue, it's a SAS programming keyword. Now there's one more color, and that's that kind of cyan or pink. Hopefully you're not colorblind. You see how this is pink, and this is pink? Those are called text strings. So when you want to pass a text string to SAS, it always has to be in quotes. So to make this a text string, it's black right now, right? I put a quote here, I go to the end, and I put another quote. And see, now it's pink. Sometimes, if you prefer, you could use a double quote. The advantage of using a double quote is you can then use a single quote within your text string. So if you want to write down Paul's program, right? If you want to write down Paul's program, this has to be in double quotes. If we want to put a title on our work, we're going to use text strings. And that'll print your title on a page. I'll show you those examples later. Okay, so notice all of these names are just in the root directory of some drive called N. Okay? Yours are going to be more complicated, right? You're going to have that user, my documents, blah, 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 blah. You can have spaces in the thing. And then the sheet name has to be written exactly as it's written in your Excel sheet, okay? So as long as you do all those things, then all you got to do is hit the submit button. And we should be able to create all those things. So I'm going to close this now. So let's take this and delete it. Now if I rerun this program, and the way you run a program is you see this little man called run, you hit the submit key, and it says NAS was successfully created. So for your homework, you would cut and paste, whoops, that's way too much. So again, to do your homework, well, it might be easier to make it big. You would start at the beginning of the code. You would cut and paste this all together into a Word file. And that's now your homework assignment completed, okay? Because this shows me the code, and it shows me what SAS did, and it shows me you were successful, okay? So that's how you're going to complete your homework assignments all the time. And if we look here, sure enough, there's our data set. But again, we would have to do all those clicking every single time if we're using, for every sheet, if we're using the wizard. But if you've got a program where all you have to do is change the sheet name, well, you can read in all 3 sheets at once. So in a way, it's a lot easier. So when you do this, I recommend you create, just read in 1 sheet first. And when that works, copy and paste it and change the sheet name. That'll be the best way. I'm done in a minute. All right. What else do you need to know to get the homework assignment done? So you know how to get the folder names, right? I can show you something else really complicated, but I don't think I'm going to do it today. No. Okay, so I'm done for today. And you have everything you need. That's interesting.